Hey, hello, good morning, everybody. Or good afternoon, depending where you are in Europe. I guess let's maybe give one more minute or 2 minutes in case more people will be joining, and then we will go ahead and start from there. So if you are hearing everything correctly, you can see everything. You can also type it in the chat to let me know that everything works. I would appreciate feedback here. Great. Hey, Thomas. Good to see you. Hey, hello, Dave. Cool. Great. Then I guess from the technical side, everything works. Good to hear that. Let's still give one more minute and then we will be able to jump into it. As I see, there are already some clients that already have and use Dealavo. There are some new people that maybe I haven't met, or maybe I will still have a chance to meet. So nice to see everybody here. Thanks for joining. Cool. I think we are ready 2 minutes after the start. So I guess let's go ahead and start. I will share my screen and we can take it from there. So to start with the quick question. So when was the last time you checked if your prices are still competitive? Was it today, yesterday, or maybe never? The question is, of course, hypothetical, but I'm meeting every day with retailers, brands, and what a typical e-commerce morning looks like is you open your Shopify, ShopTet, WooCommerce, Magento, Paythinker, whatever system you're using, right? See orders coming in, but you have no idea whether you're winning because of price or losing margin silently. And that's exactly why today we will talk about the price monitoring in the real world, not theory. So, of course, here is a long intro story about me. But I guess what's the most important is I work daily with e-commerce teams across different markets, and pricing is always the same story. Everyone knows it's important, but very few feel in control. So let's talk about the actual problem and the plan on how I want to present the ideas. And just to set expectations, this is not going to be a theoretical pricing lecture. So basically, we will start with very briefly with what price monitoring actually means, because everyone think they know, and most people mean slightly different things. Then we will talk about advantages, but not in a feature list way, more like what problem does this actually solve in your day-to-day work. Next thing, I want to connect pricing directly to margin, competitiveness, and decision-making, especially in markets where prices change daily. And this is usually the part where people realize pricing isn't just an operational task. And then I'll show you a live example, how this looks in practice, not on marketing slides. At the end, I'll show you how to apply for our free demo micro tool so you can start price monitoring of your own products. And then in the end, we will have enough time for simply questions, especially practical ones from your shops. You can already prepare some, or if you have already some questions, write them down and we will go through that. Most people think price monitoring means checking competitors' prices, and that's only about 20% of the story. Starting with benefits, firstly, you protect margin instead of racing to the bottom, and you would be surprised how often I hear that from the clients on a daily basis, that we don't want to get the race to the bottom. That's why we don't monitor prices. That's why we don't change the prices. But you actually protect your margin if you monitor and understand what is happening. Pricing stops being stressful, and you simply react faster than competitors. Because the challenge is not lack of data, it's too much noise and all the work you have to do around to even see what competitors are doing, or even worse, rely on when customers come to you and say, okay, I've seen the product cheaper on this and this website. Can you match it? And you don't even know that there are cheaper products out there. So as I hear on daily basis, I change prices in the morning, and then in the afternoon, I'm no longer competitive because manual checks are already outdated. Second thing, prices change multiple times per day. By the time you open your huge Excel, the price is already different. So pricing is one of the very few levers in e-commerce that impacts revenue, margin, and competitiveness in the same time. Because if you don't monitor the market properly, decisions are made blindly, or even worse, by your competitors. So price monitoring is not a nice to have tool. It's part of how modern e-commerce operates. And that's the first step, because the topic of today's webinar is the price monitoring, right? That the next step is the dynamic pricing and how to actually automate the pricing and keep it as hands-off as possible. But in order to get into that step, you have to start with the monitoring. Most people think that the main advantage of price monitoring is knowing competitor prices. In reality, that's the least interesting part. When you look at prices across market, you start noticing patterns. You see that some competitors consistently price higher and still sell. That usually means they are not targeting the same customer as you. Price monitoring often reveals who the market is really serving and not who you think it is. Very common thing is also a lot of clients tell me that, okay, I have 20 years experience in the market. I know the industry. Okay, but you know the retail, the offline industry well, and you know what is happening there because you've been in business for a long time. But the e-commerce side, the online side, is typically a very different beast. So that's why it reveals a lot of new things once you actually start to understand and monitor what is happening. This becomes even more important once you sell in more than one market. And I know a lot of you here not only operate in one market, one country, but you are in a lot of different markets. And then the same product rarely competes the same way in Poland, Germany, Romania, Czech, Slovakia. Basically, price sensitivity is different. Competitors are different. Promo intensity is different. One price strategy across all markets is usually a hidden risk because local competition defines the rules and not your internal price list. So most e-shops are reactive. They move after the market moves. But price monitoring allows you to move before it happens. You see a competitor systematically testing higher prices, and you can adapt your strategy before it becomes the new standard. The real advantage is not speed, it's anticipation and understanding the market. So simply, price monitoring is not just about protection, it's more of a growth and strategy tool. In e-commerce, price is one of the very few things that can change your results overnight. And it's also one of the few things most teams don't fully control. And even big retailers, big shops, which hire a lot of people, they have their dedicated pricing teams. They still don't have the full control if they lack some data. So every pricing decision you make or don't make has a direct impact on revenue, margin, and competitiveness, as I mentioned earlier. Prices don't change weekly anymore. In many categories, they change daily or even multiple times per day. I would refer to, of course, the consumer electronics, where the prices change every few minutes, every few hours. If you monitor it daily, or if you don't monitor it, then basically you are very, very blind. If you don't monitor it continuously, you're always reacting to something that already happened. And I don't think I have to explain that 2-3% pricing mistake doesn't look dramatic on one order, right? But repeated across hundreds or thousands of orders, it becomes very expensive. So without proper monitoring, pricing decisions are not strategic, they are more like an assumptions. And in competitive market, assumptions are usually corrected by the competitors. And that's why price monitoring isn't about being cheaper. And that's what we try to educate. And I always mention it on every client discussion, every meeting that I have, that it's not about being cheaper. It's about being in control, because of course there are products where you want to be the cheapest. You can sacrifice the margin. If you identify those are my traffic builders where I want to attract the client and get them to my website, and I can sacrifice the margin here, but then I will have other products which I can add on in the basket, which will return me the margin that I potentially lost by attracting the client. But if they see always unattractive prices, then of course you cannot really draw them to your website. So now that we are clear why this matters, let's look at how this works in practice. Okay. Okay, so to start with, right, what the price monitoring is and how that works. As I mentioned, that's usually the first step into the automation process, which of course can be done right away. You can go into the automation, the repricing, but you can also start with actually understanding the market and then going to the next step. But what we are focusing on today is actually this first step, the price monitoring. So here, what I'm going to show you is actually a few real-world examples, how the price monitoring can be beneficial in the business. So let's take an example of, let's say I'm a beauty retailer right now, and I'm selling whatever type of beauty products, creams, cosmetics, everything, right? Looking at the product here, I can see right away the full overview. The ranking column indicates what is my current position in the ranking. Am I even competitive? As I can see here, if I'm a beauty retailer, I'm not really competitive at all for this particular product. On the other hand, for example, here for this particular Birkenstock flip-flops, I'm actually very competitive. What is also interesting is I can see what is my percentage to minimum price that I would have to lower my price to get there. So I see here 8%. I'm very close to be very, very competitive, to be cheap and attract even more people here. In the case of my own cosmetic product here, I don't think I'm even able to be competitive. And that's also a good knowledge and the know-how that I can use for the discussions with my suppliers, with brands, manufacturers, because for some reason, either I have really bad purchasing conditions, or for some reason, there are retailers that are just so below the surface level. But I can go in detail and actually see what is happening for every product. So if I click on any of those products, I can see right away that, okay, here, the cheapest offer from Pharma2Go, the price is then 52. As we saw before, right now, I'm on the 213th place, and my price here is 20.90 cents. So definitely I'm not competitive here. If I can be competitive, probably not, because looking back here, I would have to go almost 100% in order to be somewhere near the first spot. What is interesting is for every offer, we are tracking all of the movements and changes. So you can easily see if there are any price changes, any movements. As for example, in this case, Promo Pharma, they lowered the price from 11.53, and right now the price is 11.45. Not a significant price difference, price reduction, but they made the change. We noticed that, and that's what you can notice right away. If you see those changes on a constant basis, on a daily or even hourly basis, depending how frequently we check the prices, because that's also something we can adjust. Depending on the industry, depending on the specifics, by default, we would monitor the products every day, and every day we'll update everything. But if you need to do it more frequently, we are very, very open to do that. We are open to adjusting that frequency. If you need to do it every hour, we can also set it up this way. Another additional benefit here, which is also something you can see, if you provide us with the cost prices, purchase prices in the product feed, you can see if there are retailers that are selling below your cost price. So as you can see, all of those little skulls here, this alert indicates that the product is simply sold below our cost price. So I know right away that all of those products here, I'm not really in a position to actually fight with price-wise, because simply they are selling below my cost price. And yeah, probably that wouldn't be so wise to go below that, right? Nobody wants to lose money here, unless those are some products that are just, laying in the warehouse for the last year, all of the zombie products, as we like to call them. Then potentially we can even make them our traffic builders, potentially, because it costs even more for us to store it and keep stock of them than just get rid of them even below our cost price level. Another thing which is very interesting and helpful from understanding of the market is simply seeing what is the trend historically. So for every product from the beginning of the monitoring of the cooperation, we are storing the historical data. So we see how the prices change throughout the time. Let me open the historical chart here, where we can see on a simple graph how these prices change on the given period, right? So whatever the time frame, how long we monitor the products, we can easily see if there are any movements, how the market moves, who is the first one to lower the prices, how the rest of the market follows. So I can easily understand the trend and adapt my strategy accordingly. And that's something we track and keep that historical data as long as we cooperate. It's not like we keep it for a month, for 2 months. That's something that you can get that access for pretty much the whole term of the cooperation. I guess the next thing from the monitoring perspective, which is the part of automation already, but not going to change the price automatically, but something that will notify you. So all of the alerts that help with the navigation, we can use them as the filters in the interface. Let's say I want to understand what are the price reductions lately that are happening. So I can click significant price reductions alert, apply changes here, and now I will see all of the products that had some price reductions since yesterday or from whatever time frame I choose. So since last update, in this case, would be from yesterday, and I can also configure the threshold of that reduction. Maybe 15% reduction is something that is actually important, but everything below that, I don't really mind. So I can see, okay, now there is 58 products out of 535 that we monitor where there was a price reduction of more than 15%. We can take a look here and see right away. In this case, Amazon. So Amazon reduced the price from $19.90 to $14.99. That's the change from yesterday. Analogically, of course, the price increases. So if I want to see if there are any price increases since yesterday, I can also see that. I guess something which gives us really quick gain, something that right away gives us the insight and the potential to basically make profit are two alerts which we call easy gain and clever move. Easy gain, that's the alert which will show us all of the products where we are the cheapest. We are number one in the ranking, but simply we can maximize the profit here, maximize the margin. So for the products which are more expensive, as for example here, the product which we sell for 1,199 euros. I see the next offer in the ranking from Otto is actually 1,349. So there is 150 euro difference that I'm just leaving on the table because I don't even know about it. So easily I can identify those products where I can quickly gain, still be the cheapest, remain on the first position, and just maximize my margin. That's why it's an easy gain. And then, of course, the threshold for that can also be set. So by default, it's 10%. If I want to change the percentage or set it for the amount, I can always do that. And then the second alert, clever move, which would identify the products for us where we simply can get into the first position, can be more competitive, but we just lower the price a little bit. Let's say if I lower my price by 3%, can I get to the first spot? Okay, right away, I see there are 13 products like that. First one here, if I open up, okay, my price, 1,099 euros. The first one, 1,095. 4 euros difference. I'm not really sacrificing anything here, but I can get into the first spot, attract more clients, more potential customers, and just simply not really lose any margin here, or minimal. And that's something that is often kind of disregarded because we don't know, we cannot really track all of that manually. But if I can really quickly see all of those potential products, this is something that is really a clever move and a quick quick gain also. Moving a little bit from the alerts and kind of filtering it in the platform, all of those alerts can be easily automated, as I mentioned. So I can set them up as my email notifications, email alerts. And whenever some significant change happens on the market, I can get the notification about it. So let's say I want to get the notification about the easy gain or clever move, which will be 10%. So if I can increase my price by 10% and remain on the first position, I will choose the sources which I monitor, the competitors which are relevant for me, the categories of products which are relevant for me. And then whenever something like this happens, I get the notification. Another thing, every user of the application can have their own set of alerts. So of course, if I'm the category manager for a certain category of products, I will have different interests than my colleague, which is working on a different set of products. So everybody can adjust and have their tool specifically adjusted for their own needs. All of those alerts are sent after every price update. So that's also correlated with the price refresh frequency. Moving a little bit from the alerts, another basically overview I wanted to show in more detail is the retailer tab, because that's something that gives us the possibility of benchmarking with the competitors, understanding how we stack against each other. So in the first place, to understand who are my competitors, identify who my competitors are, and then after that, I can actually implement the strategy of how I want to compete with either all of them, either with specific competitors. Of course, I would have competitors specific for a certain category, brand, all of that. But once I understand how they price those products in those certain categories, certain brands, and certain groups, now I can implement the strategy for that. So in the retailers tab, we have a helicopter view on all of our competitors and how we stack against each other. So let's say right now, as I mentioned, I would act as a cosmetics or beauty retailer. So now I want to benchmark myself with Notino here. So right away, I can see that, okay, with Notino DE, I have 96 products in common. One of them I sell exactly at the same price, 47 I sell price here, 48 I sell cheaper. And now what I can do is simply click on each of those retailers that I'm benchmarking with and see the full overview. So every product that we have in common, what is our price? What is the Notino price in this case? And then how we stack against each other. In this case, I'm 13% cheaper than them, but here, as I already see, okay, 16% more expensive, 28% more expensive, 32% more expensive, or 33 almost. All of that can be easily segmented into brands, categories, groups of products, because of course, I'm not going to be the cheapest on all of the products. I don't want to be the cheapest on all of the products. But if I have my product roles assigned and I know that for certain products, I want to be the cheapest, which will attract the new potential clients. They will build the traffic for me. I want to be very competitive. So those are probably the ones that I want to benchmark with and make sure that I'm very competitive. All of that can be easily filtered and managed from that perspective. Another thing, again, referring a little bit to the cost price, which I mentioned a little bit earlier, that if you provide it here in the product feed, you will be able to see what would be the difference to your cost price. So potentially, if I can go even lower and how that would correlate with my cost prices. So it's really easily visible to see how I can make the changes and how that would impact also my margin here. from the retailers. The next logical overview, once I understood all of my competitors and how and what kind of role they play on the market, I can also go to the next step, which is actually tracking how my performance of the price monitoring, the change that I make, actually play a role in my end goal, which I understand the end goal always is to make more profit, have better margin. That's the end goal, right? Here, what you can do is simply connect all of the data from the Google Analytics in the dashboard to see how your changes, what you are doing here, how the price monitoring actually affects those goals. So if my margin is going up, if my margin is going down, maybe because my volume of sales is going up, I'm making better profit. Maybe I sacrificed a little bit margin here, because in the end, it's not about, always the best margin, the highest margin, but if I don't sell anything, it doesn't mean nothing, right? So simply we need to find the middle ground here. But in order to make any progress, I have to track the progress. So I can connect it with Google Analytics and have all of that sales data, sales volume in the application. In the overview, of course, what I can see is the full summary. So how many products I monitor, how many retailers we were able to find, the number of offers for all of those products, what is our average margin percentage and how that changes, what is our average price index, for how many products we have first position in the ranking. All of that is available and simply visible on the dashboards. So on a simple dashboard here, I can see which competitor and how we stack against each other. So first case, Amazon DE, I see, okay, on most of those products, of course, the Amazon is cheaper, and that's usually the case, right? But the marketplaces, this is a whole different game usually. So if I want to focus on certain competitors, certain retailers, I can easily filter them out also, because all of the views, the whole overview can be easily chosen. So if I want to focus on certain sources, certain groups, brands, all of that can be adjusted. I can see not only products-wise and if I'm cheaper, pricier, etc., but how deep that goes. So of course, the lower price index of the competitor, the more aggressive they are on the pricing. So going in depth on not only how many products they sell lower, but how much lower they sell it, because the price index is based on the average market price. So simply how much they are lower from the average price, and then it will give me the idea if those competitors are actually worth to compete with, or maybe I just don't want to compete with them because they are simply too cheap and I'm not willing to sacrifice my margin that much. And I will find my own target group of customers, of clients. Another thing, I can also focus and see the position in the ranking. So all of the retailers and how many of them, how many products they have on a certain position in the ranking. How I see that here, I can see that myself in this case. On the first position in the ranking, I'm on the 8% of the products, but on most of my products, so 72% of them, I'm on the 11th or further place in the ranking, which is probably typical. Of course, I mean, I'm not able to be the cheapest on all of the products, and I don't want to be the cheapest there. Probably it's something that only on a few products which attract the clients, that build the traffic, that's where I actually want to be very competitive. I can see my margin level for all of the products, how that looks like, if it's healthy, if it's something that may be worth to look at from the closer perspective. If I if I want to identify, and definitely that's something worth the discussion later on with my suppliers, with my manufacturers that I work with, I can easily identify which products are sold below our purchase price, so that I can easily see those products and then have the actual data to have discussions with my suppliers, with the manufacturers, and see if maybe my conditions are not as good as they were saying, or potentially maybe the products are just too cheap and probably worth even getting them out of the portfolio and not even selling them, because potentially I'm not going to sell them anyway. So that's the quick, simple overview of the dashboard. One more thing from the monitoring part, which is actually very, very interesting in terms of kind of ad hoc analysis. That's why we call it ad hoc reports, because how that works, simply every account which we set up has this feature available. And how this works and what's the benefit of that is, usually it's used by the purchasing departments, but not only, it's also used to just simply ad hoc check the market. So what I can do is I can just import a simple file with the EANs, with the GTINs that I want to check. Let's say a story like that, there is a supplier that comes to me with the new set of products, new products that I can potentially start selling and add them to my website. But before I even buy them, I want to sell them, I want to check what is happening on the market. And that's what the ad hoc reports are for. I import the file here, we run the processes, we do the matching on the most popular marketplaces, price comparison websites, whether it's Amazon's, Google Shopping, Eureka's, EMAG, Compari, etc., depending on the market, of course. And then what we will do is deliver the report, which will give you the full overview. How those products are sold, who are the sellers of those products, what are the prices on the market for those products. And then it's really easy to make the final decision, because if I see that there are products which are sold even below the cost price, again, what the supplier offered, probably I don't want to get them. I don't want to start selling them. But if I see that there are some products with a good potential being sold with a nice margin, the products are simply good for my portfolio, I have a quick overview, and I can make the informed data-driven decision, and not just a decision based on the supplier saying, okay, those are the new products, get them, because that's what is moving on the market right now. I can actually see what is moving, what are the prices, and how they are actually sold. It's really simple to use. I can import any type of file format, if it's simple Excel, CSV, JSON, whatever file. And then I'll get the feedback of the market. The credits that I can use depends, of course, on the package I go for. As I said, as standard, we always give this feature. But if I want to have more of those credits per month, we can always organize that. And then also the interesting part of the monitoring, right? The data, which all of the data that I simply showed you here in this overview. So all of the retailers, all of the products, all the offers, all of that is, of course, available in form of a report. I know that there are still people that are, more keen on working with the raw data, working with the Excel spreadsheets, with the CSVs, or simply you want to import that into your own Power BI systems. Any of those ways we can support, because all of the data is available in pretty much any type of format. Directly from our API, if you just want to export the data into the flat CSV with all of the offers, all of that is available. If you need the JSON, you can get the JSON. If you want to get the Excel spreadsheet, you can simply export the Excel historical report with the full overview. To be honest, those are the main things of the price monitoring that I wanted to focus on and show you the ideas of how this price monitoring can be used and potentially be beneficial in the business, because in the end, the blindfold decisions are not something that would drive the profits and the sales, but actually what you are doing here. As you can see, we are offering also our free tool to check, so that you can apply for that and check how the system works on the actual products of your own. We are also open to setting up additional conversations, meetings, and figuring out how and if Dealavo could be a fit for you. We can schedule a meeting together and understand the situation, because that's the first thing, understanding the situation of your business and how that fits, and if you can benefit from that. Yeah, and I think that's the main things here. I'm open for the questions and seeing the questions from your shops. Yeah, you can of course obtain the recording of this webinar. It will be available on the email, the summary email of the webinar, where you will be able to get the recording of that. Okay. Any questions from your specific cases? When shall we expect the summary email? That should be available, I would say, up to an hour after the webinar ends. We will be sending out the summaries. No problem. No problem. Any more questions, maybe specifically to any of the cases? Yeah, no problem. No problem. I guess if there are no further questions, we can wrap this up for today. But as I said previously, how can I obtain your service? Great question, Felix. Simply, if you contact us, you can contact us directly after we send out the summary email. Just let us know, respond to that email, and we will schedule a simple one-on-one meeting and just figure out your situation, how and if and what can be done in order to support your price monitoring. You can also fill out the form that we are just displaying on the dashboard right now. Hey, no problem, Veronica. Happy to run it. Happy to share some value, some additional details from our daily work. But as I said, probably the most beneficial would be having those actual one-on-one conversations and understanding your situation and how we can fit into that and potentially improve some of those results. Cool. I'm just wondering, we still have some time open. I'm not sure if any more questions will come or if we should wrap this up. If anybody has any more questions, anything, feel free. Now is the time to get the answer right away. If no, I see no more questions, then I guess we can get this wrapped up. So thanks for joining. Thanks for being here. Thanks for the questions. As I mentioned, just get in touch if you have any additionals or anything that you want to discuss further. Thanks.